Hello, my name is Jason McClellan. I'm going to start this recording with a basic run through of my section of EffortLogger. So if we were to log in with a valid set of username and password credentials, we can go to my part of the project. And to start this off, we're going to go with an overview of the problem and its solution. So the problem is the team wanted a planning poker session, some sort of thing to get group members together so they could talk about projects, tasks, the step they're in, the category they're in, the deliverable, its points, um, connected points, the specific story, and then if they were to join an active planning poker session, which basically after a user has already selected everything specifically, it'll populate with a set of users to show that, hey, these people are working on this user story. So if we were able to start that, we're going to go with, let's just go with the restaurant. And let's go with, let's see here. And we can really do any of them. We can do customer reviews, intuitive navigation. Anyways, so we're going to do first time visitor navigation. Basically, what the user wants is the main navigation to be straightforward to easily explore the website. Let's just say at this theoretical restaurant, the website needs to be easily maneuverable, navigationable, explorable, all that extra stuff. So with that, it has a weight of 8. So let's just say we want to join a planning poker session after we have selected everything and get something going. So as you can see, thanks to my login, I have been selected with user 25. And basically now what I can do is now that I've selected this point with this story, I'll be like, if I was in a group setting of planning poker, me and the group would be discussing things. And then after it, we'd come together sort of, but we wouldn't show the screens, and we would talk about, or no, we would choose what we think, what is hardest. An ace being a 100 and a 0 being a 0, going through jack, queen, king, all that good stuff. So let's just say the explorability of this website, to make it easy at least, I think would be, let's go with a 5. I think it's going to be a 5 in difficulty. So I send that estimate, and it's you can see that activation that had happened. Now he may be asking, how does this work? So basically what it does is it pulls, it flows basically by pulling previously known project data that was created with projects, tasks, all that stuff. This is Calvin's part, so I don't really want to go deep dive into it, but let's just go with the part that I had selected, which was intuitive navigation, my bad. And let's just go with user wants, user wants navigation to be easily explorable. Well, the weight was 8 as shown below, and the estimate was 100. The estimated effort was because I had messed with this previously, and because I had inputted what I did, which was that 5, it had estimated the average after everyone else has put it in. So after X amount of users has put in their effort, it averages it out, and this is the estimated effort. Then which in that planning poker session, everyone would come together and be like, okay, why is it this hard for this person, but this easy for this other person? And basically how this works is, first, I'm going to show the programming. So this population box over here, or my bad, over here, is used in active users. So basically it it sends a query to the database after, as long as this isn't null. Basically, once the task has been selected, which a task can only be part of a certain project, and with that task comes user story point. So after user story point has been selected, that's when they can join the poker session, and that's where active users comes in. So basically, with this is where, oh, I didn't mean to scroll down. This is where it sends the query after it connects, and then while it's next, it'll get the items, and then the integer that's connected with the user. When the user ID, when you first create something, it sets user integer in the database, and that's what it pulls. So you can track that. So when we send the estimate, which was this demonstration where I set the estimate of 5, I can set 40 and send it. It'll change on the back end. It'll update. I can show that in a bit. But when I send the estimate after the planning poker session has been joined, so after you've selected a project and a task and a user story point that you and X amount of people are working on, you can then join a session. So if the session is joined by some ID, it'll find the user ID. And then if that ID story point isn't null and the current user ID isn't null, and the story point estimate is greater than or equal to 0, it basically goes through the stuff. So basically it sends a query that inserts into the planning poker log, which I will show here. So if I were to send that query, planning poker log, you can see recently that user 25, which is what I was, me. If I were to refresh, it's only going to show me, which it did. I had selected multiple points, 5 and 40. This was from previous stuff, so I apologize for that. But 5 and 40 was what I had submitted. Now going back to the code, after it connects, it inserts that into a specific part of the database, and then it goes through a series of checks. So first off, it tries to insert it. If it can't, it'll output a fail. And then if you try to send an estimate for a task that doesn't exist, it'll return null, and the other various things. So the system listener, basically what it does is if you haven't selected a user story point, what it does is it tells you basically through various ways that you haven't done it. So let's just say, I have not selected a user story point. And then I try to send an estimate. It'll tell me to pick a card. First off, I have to pick the card with the associated story point. So basically, system listener it finds out what you're doing, and then after it's called, it's thrown recursively. It basically it shows you what you've done wrong. It holds your hand, and then exit session. So if I were to refresh, and because user 17 is there, so let's say now I join after I've selected a valuable point, and then refresh. And then if I were to exit planning poker and then refresh, oh, I must have done it wrong. Let me go to a different one. There we go. So now it's refreshed with user 25, which is me. If I were to exit, it'll leave the active thing. So if I were to refresh it, it's going to show no users because there's no active planning poker session for that. On join pressed, basically, if this isn't null and this user story list view has a selection and that selection isn't null, it'll allow me to join a session. And then join session, I went through user story listener. Oh, that's not me. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. If I were to populate the table with everything, you would be able to see that the projects that I've been showing, the task data associated with a project ID, the story points that have been showing, the planning poker log. So when I was sending estimates, and then the current players, which isn't open, I should have shown that. But if I were to rerun it, it would, and join the session, player ID 25 would join. Anyways, thank you. Hope you have a good one.